He's also known as the Cop Comic, former police officer, and current full-time comedian. I think he's going to make us laugh. He will be doing a phone call interview today. So what's weird is he actually just called me. My phone never rang. It just went straight to voicemail. So I'm going to call him back here live. I just wanted to let you guys know what was going on and what we're doing. By the way, before we call him, just an update. You guys have been working with the GoFundMe, and I think we're up to, I want to say at the last count, we're up to $190 raised out of our goal. So again, if we raise $2,000, I'm going to take the pepper spray to the face. If we raise $2,500, I'm going to take the pepper spray to the face, and I will do it on a live Facebook feed. So those are the two things we got going on. And I'm going to go ahead and give our guest a call here. We'll put him live on the show. So without further ado, guys, here goes. I'm going to call Jim Perry, the Cop Comic. Let's see what he has to offer. All right, calling him now.
Hello, is this Josh?
Hey, Jim, how you doing?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Doing well. I'm not sure what happened. You called and it didn't ring. It just went. I just got your voicemail, but my phone never rang.
No, that's okay. Are we live already?
You are live right now, sir.
Okay, well, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you, man. Thanks for coming on. And I'm just curious to know. I've heard a little bit about your story. I checked out some of your content. I think from what I've seen, you're a hilarious guy. But I just want to know. Go ahead and tell me about yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, first off, I want to thank you for, again, having me and what you guys are doing.
Oh, well, thank you.
What you guys are doing is absolutely awesome. And then recognizing officers that are on the job and off the job and retired, and we're doing other things. And you're bringing light to that is a really cool thing. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Jim.
Yeah, as far as me, I was a police officer for almost 10 years, and I held a lot of different jobs within the organization, and then unfortunately I got hurt. I was a B cop, and then I even did the officer-friendly thing. And then after I got hurt and I had to leave the police department, I thought, since I had a steady paycheck and good insurance, that why not transition to stand-up comedy and sketch shows on YouTube? Because as you know, and everybody else, that pays great. So yeah. There you go.
Well, if you don't mind me asking, how did you actually get hurt?
I got hurt kind of twofold. So I was on a call, and it was a burglary in progress at an IHOP restaurant. And going through the restaurant, walking through the kitchen, we're looking for a burglar. And I slip and fall on bacon grease and messed up my shoulder. So
wow.
The oink oink bacon jokes haven't stopped since. So yeah, and then after that, several months later, I volunteered and was in a taser training. You guys all know what a taser is, and the training just didn't go well. What happened was the taser lady that was in charge tased me in the back, and I had two cops on each side holding me so I didn't fall and hurt myself. And he didn't mean it, but the guy on the right didn't allow my arm to move when I got tased and took the 5-second ride. So unfortunately, my shoulder's all screwed up with ligament damage and stuff. So I had to kind of rediscover myself and do something else. But I did become religious during that experience. I remember yelling, "Oh God," quite a bit at the end of my teaser ride. I think I might have said "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy" too, but don't tell anybody. So.
Oh man, dude, that's wild. So of all things for a cop to slip and fall on, you fell on bacon grease. Do you think that was a little bit of like karma right there?
Yeah, and like I said, with the whole oink oinks and bacon jokes, it hasn't stopped since. And the worst ones are my fellow police officers that I worked with, of course.
Oh, I bet. I bet they're giving you a hard time, man.
And my prior, and I was in the service too. So, and once they heard the story, I at least get an occasional message about that once a week. It seems like. Man,
so you were in the service. What branch?
I was a Navy guy. I was in the Navy for 2 years active, 6 years reserve, and then I served over in the Persian Gulf for part of that. I was lucky, though. I didn't see combat or anything. But good. It was an experience that I'm proud of and helped me go to school and helped grow me up too. You know, I was 18 years old when I went in, and it's been good. And you talk about stories. There's all kinds of material with that.
So, yeah. I know. I'm coming from the Army dynamic, so I totally feel you on that. There's stories for days.
Are you allowed to talk to me if you're in the Army? Yeah, I'm not sure.
you know, I almost ended our call. I almost did, but no. But hey, man, thank you for your service for sure.
For sure, you too, man. It's funny how you guys all tease each other, but that's what it's all about. Is if you did your time, man, God bless you.
It's sibling rivalry, all in good fun. As we get started here, I just want to know. I want to verify. I went ahead and put the tagline of this video as the cop comic. Does that work for you?
Yeah, the cop comic is kind of a thing that has worked. I did a couple shows early on and saw a couple of the people that were watching me, you know, started calling me that. So I made that my tagline. And it's really helped because it kind of helps me jump right into my material at shows. But I might be known as the cop comic, but the tease I make is my nephew, who's a delinquent, calls me donut eating pig scum. So, so
how old is he?
I think I told him. Oh, now he's probably about 14, 15. I think he just got in high school. But when he started teasing me with that little comment, I started telling him to screw him in his 5th grade DARE class at the time. So
that's great.
Is it wrong that I wanted to tell him to just say yes to drugs? Is that bad? No, I just
You should honestly change that to your comedian, your stand-up name. Just donut eating pig scum.
Pig scum, yeah.
I like it. Right? So that's your nephew. So do you actually are you married? Do you have any kids?
Yeah, I have 2 teenage boys, both addicted to crappy music and Fortnite. And I am married. My oldest son, just got his driver's license, and we had an incident last week, which was not good. He gives me a call and tells me that he got in a car accident.
Oh no!
And I'm like, okay, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, are you okay? Are you hurt or anything? And he's like, no, Dad, I'm not hurt, but it was the neighbor's car. And I'm like, oh, great. I said, well, that's going to be a little awkward. I said, well, we'll deal with it. We'll be okay. And then he goes, yeah, one more thing, Dad. And I'm like, what, buddy? He's like, the neighbor's car that I hit, it was still parked in the garage. And I'm like, what? So I can't imagine what my insurance rates are going to be now. But yeah, been married 24 years, 2 teenagers.
Wow.
And life is good. Feel blessed.
24 years. That's amazing, man. Good for you. And coming from, you know, being a police officer, obviously we've seen some police officers kind of drift away and go to comedy or go to other things, you know, that is becoming, you know, more of a thing to do.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I could see where that transition would be for you and how you would feel about it. But how did your wife necessarily feel when you told her, like, hey, hun, I want to do stand-up comedy now?
Yeah. Not to make it too serious, but, you know, I heard Vinny Montez, another comedian that's a police officer, awesome comedian, good guy. But he you know, I was listening to his interview and I was like, you know, I really relate to what he had to say, and it was kind of where my wife came from too. Is my wife's dad was a police officer for over 30 years, and he was shot, and he's fine, but his partner was killed. And my point is that when I got in the police department, she was a bit hesitant, nervous about that. And I honestly think, and I mean this sounds crazy, but I honestly think that when I got hurt, even though it wasn't very serious, which it caused me to leave the police department, I think she was happy about it. Because she was always on pins and needles. You know, police officers, as you guys know and have you talked to, is we've seen a lot of horrific things. I mean, you see it in just on so many different levels, even personally. You know, a lot of police officers, the statistic of them killing themselves is very saddening.
Yeah.
And I think for me, if you don't know much about comics, we really try to turn dark things and make them funny. So it's really been a nice outlet for me because I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, in my opinion, everybody has some type of hurt, habit, or hang up, but when are they going to get out of denial and address that and deal with that in some way?
That's true.
And for me, comedy has really been that outlet. So But yeah, she's been super supportive, and she's just a blessing. But I think the biggest marital problem that me and my wife have is these home automation, these smart devices in our houses. They're kind of ruining our marriage.
How is that?
My wife's name is Alexa.
Oh no.
So yeah, exactly. Cool, like 15 years ago, but not now.
Oh no.
And not to get too graphic on your live show here, but I'll just say last time we were in the bedroom having relations, I was like, Alexa, baby, you're making me hot, and the air conditioning turned on. So that's not good. But yeah, I think if we can get past that, I think we'll be okay. But everything else, she's been a great sport and very supportive, and I feel, again, very, very blessed.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. You might want to invest in because there's Alexa, and then what else is there? It's the Google, the Echo or something. Maybe you need to invest in that.
Oh, my wife's a sweetheart. She says, oh, what do you want me to do? Change my name to Siri? I'm like, oh, you're funny, baby. I love you.
Oh man, it sounds like you guys have a pretty fun. But you being a police officer and a comedian, I'm sure there's never a dull moment around the house.
Oh yeah, she's funnier than I. She just doesn't go on stage about it. I like to use her material most of the time because she's a very quick-witted woman. So she's a good girl.
Hey, that's great, man. And obviously, being a cop, you see a lot. For instance, you brought up like Vinny, and Vinny. I'm sure you guys are very similar in the sense that a lot of his comedic styling comes from things he actually saw on the streets. That he took and turned into jokes. And I'm sure you're very much the same way, because that's like every day when you're on patrol, you just are constantly getting new materials. Essentially what it is. If you're a comedian, it's just like, okay, there's a joke. There's a joke.
Oh yeah. The material is endless. I mean, obviously we have to put twists on it, exaggerate it a bit to make it comedic. But if I think any police officer that's doing comedy, or there's even guys in Hollywood that write movies and stuff, the stuff is based on stuff that we really, really saw. I mean, I've seen crazy stuff. I mean, trying to think of stuff that I can say now live. I could use the word orgy. That's not a bad word. I had a that's pretty crazy call I ever went on. I went on an orgy in progress.
Wow.
And I promise I'll describe it kindly. And so I'm like in my 20s at the time, and I'm imagining young girls and pillow fights, and I'm excited. And then I pull off the main drag, and it's Heaven's Gate Retirement Center. Yeah. So I'm like, this isn't going to be good.
Oh no.
So pull up, and it's like a bingo game gone wild.
Oh no.
Seeing way too much in medical alert necklaces, and it was interesting. I think the funniest part, without getting into all the details, is when we finally left. One of the older guys, he goes, yeah, you're leaving so soon. I'm like, yeah. He's like, we'll let you off with a warning, and I'm like, okay. I don't know if he was trying to invite me to the party, or I don't know. But that was probably the nuttiest one. And then I remember getting in trouble one time on the police department. This is more comedic than serious. Is I handled like a domestic violence call. And I don't know if you've heard of that book. What's it called? What to Expect When You're Expecting. It's like a pregnant.
Yeah. So
the wife and the husband are fighting, and the wife gets mad at the husband, and she throws the book at the husband and hits him in the head with his book. And I'm interviewing them and getting what I need for my report. And I say to the husband, I go, I bet you didn't expect that. So after my stern talk from my sergeant, I had to go back and.
Oh yeah, I bet that was a complaint.
But I mean, it's just endless, the stories and the funny things that have happened. And I mean, those that I just mentioned aren't even quite exaggerated. I mean, those are pretty on the nose.
Right. Well, let me ask you this without getting too specific here, because I don't want to give out any sensitive information. But what state did you patrol in?
I was a police officer in Illinois and a police officer in Arizona. But I do try to keep that a little bit under wraps, just because of some of the content, and my humor can be more adult than some of the police officers that are really active doing comedy. So I got to be careful with that. But I think that's a little bit nicer with the comedic part is I don't have to answer to policies anymore.
Yeah.
When I was on the police department, I had to be very, very careful about what I said. So
now you can do whatever you want.
Illinois and Arizona. And Arizona is where I live now.
So those two places actually kind of have a reputation for something that I've seen. Between Illinois and Arizona, I've seen a trend that nobody knows how to drive in those states.
We're actually building a wall, and it's not where everyone thinks it is. We're going to be building a wall in the northern part of Arizona just to keep the snowbirds out.
Oh my gosh!
So that's what we're going to do.
And they're going to pay for it.
Yeah, and they're going to pay for it. That's right.
No, but I mean, like, honestly, you know, I haven't been to Illinois, but I've, you know, friends that live there. I have been to Arizona, and every time I've been through there, it's like nobody knows how to freaking drive, and it drives me nuts. Like Houston, I don't have much room to talk, but when I'm a driver from Houston and I'm saying these people don't know how to drive, that says something. So, yeah, what have you seen as far as like traffic stops or things like that? You know, because I'm sure you have to deal with some nut jobs.
Oh yeah. I mean, I have a gamut of stories there. So stuff that's appropriate. I had a guy one time I pulled over again, and this sounds like a bit. I mean, this really happened. I pull over a guy and he's going like 65 miles an hour in like a 35, and there's kids and stuff like that. And I pull him over and he tells me he's diabetic and he's about to have a seizure, and that's the reason he's speeding is he has to get home. This guy had a history of always telling us that because we locally were pulling him over all the time. And long story short, I said, "You're getting a ticket." I go back to the car to write the ticket. I look up, and the guy's having like a seizure salad on the ground. And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" So I walk over to him, and I'm like, "What are you doing, man?" And I'm like, "You're doing the Harlem Shake. I know you're full of it." And the reason I knew he was full of it was because during his seizure, 3 times during it, he stopped, lifted his head, looked for traffic to make sure it was clear, and then went back to his seizure. And I was like, "Really, man?" So I gave him a ticket, and I was very tempted to give him like a little seizure pizza coupon, but I thought I might get suspended for that.
I think they call that what's the term for it? Incarceritis, where they just don't want to get in trouble.
I think we need to get you on stage. I might have to steal some.
Hey, we might need to do some duo shows, man.
I had a guy one time I pulled over. I'll tell you 2 more. I had a guy I pulled over that was completely naked.
Nice. Oh, nice.
And he told me he was going to work, and I'm like, "I don't know what kind of work you do. I don't know if you're a stripper or what." But he claimed he was an art model, and I'm like, "Okay, are you late? And you want to make sure you're, you know, in proper uniform when you get there? You know, check your gig line. I don't know what's going on, dude."
Or lack thereof.
Yeah, right. And then a funny one is I pulled over a car. He was going like 10 miles an hour, and I walk up to the car and I'm like, "Hey, man, you're going 10 miles an hour." And to give you a clue, it was like a Volkswagen bus, so the smoke is billowing out of there. And he's like, "Yeah, man, that's the speed limit, bro." I'm like, "No, man." I go, "That's the highway sign, I-10. I go, "The speed limit's 65 miles an hour."
Wow.
And he's like, "Oh, yeah." So I mean, I've seen a lot, and if any police officers are listening, you guys are all comedians because I know you've had all the crazy traffic stops out there. But those are probably the top ones that I can think of. Is I call them naked guy, seizure guy, and then the pothead. So
you know, I'm in the police academy right now, so I don't have the patrol stories, but I did do my time working in the jails, and we constantly had the seizures. I mean, that's just fake seizures here. Dude, they flop like a fish, and it's like, man, did you even rehearse this before I came in?
Yeah, and anyone that has a family member that has a disorder like that, you know, I have completely empathy for that and all that, but I mean, there's people that will take this to the hilt to get out of a ticket.
Yeah.
You know, it was funny. I wasn't the most popular kid in high school, and I'm not the best looking guy, but man, when you're a police officer and you pull over a pretty girl, all of a sudden you're like Brad Pitt. The guys used to tease me because if a girl was pretty, they got 2 tickets, I would joke. And then if the girl was had a lazy eye, I let her go. So there you go. But yeah.
I love it.
military stories and stuff, you must have a ton of them too.
I mean, everyone's got their own little war stories, but to me, I think nothing's funnier than the patrol stuff. But I will tell you, from the jail, it didn't matter what I did. I mean, no matter what I did, because I'm a white guy too. I look like Hellman's mayonnaise, man. And every time I talk to somebody, I was a racist. Yeah, I was a racist. You know, I put on a jacket that's a little too warm. I get a tan. I mean, I would go into a cell block. True story. Went into a cell block. Nothing but Aryan Brotherhood in there, and these two guys were fighting. Pull them apart. I have one of the dudes. My partner has the other one. I put my guy in cuffs, and as I'm walking him out, he looks at me and he goes, "You're just a racist son of a bitch." And I'm thinking, I'm in a tank full of Aryan Brotherhood. We're all white in here. But it just like, that's kind of the mentality you deal with, is like, no matter what, you're racist. So I'm sure you've kind of dealt with that too, of people thinking you're just doing it because you're white. Because I think white cops have it the hardest. No matter what you do, it's because you're a white cop. So have you ever had to deal with that?
I worked with a lot of different ethnicities and cultures and stuff, and yeah, I've been asked that question: am I racist? And the joke I've made in my stand-up is, I'll tease and say, yes, I absolutely am racist. I'm racist against white trash, is what I would say. And then I'd say, every other call, you're telling me that your taxes pay my salary. And last time I checked, welfare checks aren't taxed. So sometimes that joke goes well, sometimes it doesn't. And then I talk about what's up with the white trash in Walmart and the strollers that are everywhere. And the strollers don't have kids in them; they got dogs in them, dressed with bows in their hair and yoga pants. So what's that about? And then, I've been asked a serious question. What's the deal with the white and black thing? Why does that always seem to be on the news and stuff? And I try to respond in humor. I'm the farthest thing from that. But the joke I make is, I had one of those what are those called? Those DNA tests, the 23andMe test.
Yeah.
And the results came back that I was 99.7% Irish, but 0.3% South African. And that's not even made up. That's really what the results were. So I said, it's impossible for me to be racist. And then at the end of the bit, I yell, Wakanda forever. So that's usually when I get angry. That's thinking that I'm racist.
That's where they come grab you off the stage.
Yeah. That's when they grab me. No, but it's gone well, and people that know who I am and know my character know that's the farthest thing in my brain.
Of course.
I do think that no matter if you're white or what ethnicity you are, that if you're in trouble, that people will go to any route to get out of that trouble. But that also doesn't take away that there's definitely bad apples in every group, and that needs to be managed and dealt with accordingly. So
I agree. And it's funny. I deal with the same thing in a lot of respects, because my best friend in the academy, he's black, and then I actually just got off the phone with one of my old partners from the jail who patrols now, and he's black. And I always give them a hard time anytime they, somebody, if they're around and somebody tells me like, "Oh, Josh, you're white," or whatever, "you're a white boy," I always look at him. I say, "Dude, open your eyes. I'm not white. I'm black." And they look at me funny, and I say, "Yeah, man, I'm just light skinned." And it's funny because I'll have my black friend stand next to me, and they're like, "Yeah, bro, he's light skinned. What do you mean?" And they just back me up on it. The looks that you get, and of course, that's when people decide to call me a racist. So you can't say that. That's racist. My black friend's standing right there, and he's backing it up. It's just people, I think, take it to extremes, and we live in a touchy society.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The political correct society, you're gonna always have people that are like that. And I've had, I've worked with every ethnicity too. And then, the thing is, we're not black, we're not white, we're not whatever. We're blue. And as long as we stick together as brothers and sisters, that's all that matters. And as long as you have your integrity and you move forward and you do what you got to do, you're always gonna have people that want to say certain things. But again, it doesn't take away from the guys that need to be looked at, appropriately for that. But
and so, speaking of people that need to be looked at appropriately, what we've seen the past couple of years is that law enforcement has been put in what I like to call a fishbowl, where everybody from the outside has been looking in, and so there's a new expectancy and a kind of expectation for transparency and accountability within law enforcement. And you see a lot of officers getting called into court more often, you know. So I know you're not a police officer anymore, but that doesn't mean you still can't be subpoenaed for things that happened in the past. Do you have anything ongoing that you're still going to have to go talk about one day?
I had something crazy happen just a couple months ago. Your viewers can Google this name. His name is Eddie Hicks. It's all public now, so I can talk about it. Eddie Hicks, and this was a guy that he was a police officer, and on his off time, he was going around shaking down drug dealers for their drugs and their money. And we dealt with him and his crew all served their time, but he fled, and he fled for I don't know, almost 20 years, I guess now it's been, and had the FBI at my door like 6 months ago, and they were subpoenaing me for his case. And he got convicted, so that's something too. You know, besides the racist comments, people will say that, you know, you're corrupt, you do this and that, and it's like, I just testified in a federal case against corruption, so don't tell me, you know, that's not me. But and then I was like, what's the funny in this, right? You got to try to find the funny in this. And the funny part of that is when the FBI came to my door, which I had no idea they were going to be coming to my door serving me this subpoena, my wife answers the door. And they're like, we're the FBI. We're looking for Jim Perry. And she's like, yep, come on in. He's right here. I'm like, what the hell? She had no hesitation.
Fed you to the wolves.
Yeah, she's like, here you go. Here he is. So I was like, what did I do? Did I speed? I don't remember what happened.
Man, and then, no hesitation.
And they're asking me to testify in a case 20 years ago. And before I knew what it was, I'm thinking, I can't remember my breakfast. And you want me to remember something that happened 20 years ago. And then my son, he had all these questions, and I'm telling him, I'm like, little man, this, and this. And then someone said, why do you call your son little man? And I said, well, because I can't remember his name. So I'm like, and you expect me to remember the details of this case? But no, jokes aside, he was convicted, and I'm just glad that justice was served. But yeah, that was a crazy call. It was like movie stuff. Something you'd see on like the movie Training Day, if you ever heard of that. Yeah. I mean, it was nuts, his case. But yeah, Google that, Eddie Hicks.
I sure will. That sounds like a good read.
And what was crazy was that guy, Art Kelly, was in the news.
Yeah.
And he was at, because I had to go down to Chicago, Cook County Courthouse, and I'm walking up to the case, and I see all these news cameras and all that stuff. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, are they here for this case? And they were actually all there for that Art Kelly thing. But at first, I kind of peed on myself a little bit. I was like, oh gosh, what are they here?
Yeah, you're about to have to move and get involved with witness protection.
Program.
Yep.
I'm already in Arizona. I don't know where they're going to put me.
Yeah, you're already in middle of nowhere now. Neck of nowhere. Oh, man. No, I think you raise a good point, though, and this is something I try to tell people a lot. So as you've probably seen on the show, I'm in the process of getting ready to publish my book, which is called Through Our Eyes, Ending the Divide Between Citizens and Police. And I try to speak fairly on both sides of this community and police divide. And something I try to say on behalf of law enforcement is that, 99%, I think the main problem with how the community perceives law enforcement is that 99% of everything that happens in law enforcement, people don't see. People don't see the internal affairs investigations and police officers daily getting fired for doing the wrong thing. They only see the bad things that cops do that make the news, and so in their mind, it's like, oh yeah, we can't expect you to actually police each other because there's all this corruption. It's like very frequently police officers are getting fired for doing the wrong thing. People just don't see it. So I think you raise a good point, which is, you're a living example. You just testified in federal court on this guy, and that's a big deal. And I think we need more of that exposure.
I feel bad for my guys that are currently on the job. I mean, God bless them. I mean, I only had to do almost 10 years, but I mean, they're doing 15, 20 years of service. And, without bashing our cities and our government, I mean, these policies are getting written tighter and tighter on these guys, and they're getting, talking to them off the job. They're getting scared to do their job. Yeah. And then when you're scared to do your job, that's, in my opinion, when guys get hurt. So I just really hope that the balance goes back, because I really pray and hope that this doesn't get just crazy. And at times I really do think it's crazy. I think these guys need to, they're making split-minute decisions within seconds, not anything like that. I've had some calls that got hairy, but I feel for my brothers and sisters that are out there that have to deal with these new policies that are coming everywhere. Yeah. And then you hear about all these we just had a police officer in Phoenix get killed. And it's just, I think it's so cool that you're writing a book like that and exposing that, because people need to know that we're just regular people with families, and we're trying to do our job and go home. That's all it is, man.
Yeah, thank you. And that's, I try to put that out there. And a big part of this book was to not have a bias. So I do call out bad things in law enforcement, very frequently. I'm trying to keep it even, because just like people need to know that police officers are not robots, police officers also need to understand that there's a good majority of the community that does support them. Not everybody's out to kill them. So I think there's that, kind of catch-22 where you got to realize there's some accountability to be had on both sides. That doesn't mean, either side is right and the other side is wrong. And just, there's good and bad about both. And we need to be mature enough to understand that, Yeah,
for sure.
But hey, man, I really appreciate everything you're doing. Do you have any, shows or anything coming up that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, if you don't mind me plugging a couple things, I do have a show at Flappers Comedy Club this Saturday at 7:30. So if you have any California listeners, come out and see me. Cool. If you say my name at the door, you get a discount on your ticket. And then I'd love to have you guys look into. I do a sketch series, which I have it's kind of like an SNL digital short type thing where we act out traffic stops and stuff in my comedy bits.
Nice.
But they can find me on YouTube at Jim Perry the Cop Comic. Again, Jim Perry the Cop Comic on YouTube. And yeah, give me a like and subscribe, watch the videos. And I think my first responder type audience that maybe just heard about me today, I think they'll get a kick out of it. And send me some ideas and we'll make a sketch out of it. So, but again, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for what you do.
Of course, man. Thank you. And I have all your information here on the screen right now, scrolling on the screen with your links to Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. So everybody should be able to find you. And if you send me the details to your show for Saturday, I'll put that on our page as well.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much. Stay safe out there with what you're doing. Keep making jokes, because you're a funny dude. I'd love to come see one of your shows, but honestly, I tell this to just about every guest we have on the show. Caps4Cops, we support what you're doing because you are supporting our mission by ending the divide between citizens and police. You are going out there and bridging that gap. So if there's anything you ever need that we can help you with, we are at your disposal. Just call me. You have my number now. Call me and let me know, and we're there for you.
All right. God bless you, man. Thanks again for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, God bless you, Jim. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Guys, so thankful to have Jim Perry on. Hilarious guy. I mean, that wasn't even a comedy bit. That was just a regular interview. And the dude's funny. So you got to give him that. He's funny. He made me laugh multiple times throughout that interview. So thank you, Jim. Again, that's awesome to have him calling in. I hope you guys go check out his content. I'll be posting the information for his show if you're out in Cali and want to go see him. We will be back here with the show tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I genuinely have no idea what we're going to talk about. We might just keep it loose and freeform. Or who knows, maybe I'll get spontaneous and make it an evening show tomorrow. We'll see. Because tomorrow I do need to go run and do our bottle cap pickup.